Jake's keys jingled as he tossed them onto the counter, the sound sharp against the quiet of the Chicago apartment. He'd just wrapped a 10-hour day at the architecture firm, his mind still buzzing with blueprints and client revisions. The city hummed outside, a low pulse of traffic and distant sirens, but inside, the promise of a calm evening with Kate felt like a lifeline. She texted earlier, home by 7. Let's do dinner and a movie. It was the kind of message that kept him grounded, a reminder of why he pushed through the grind. The clock showed 7:15 when the door clicked open. Kate rushed in, her phone pressed to her ear, voice clipped. Yeah, I'll handle it tomorrow. Gotta go. She hung up, dropped her bag on the couch, and flashed Jake a quick smile. Long day. I'm jumping in the shower, then we're eating, okay? Before he could answer, she was halfway up the stairs, leaving a faint trace of unfamiliar perfume in the air. Jake chuckled to himself, shaking his head. Kate's energy was relentless, always juggling a dozen tasks as a marketing lead. He admired that drive, even if it sometimes left him playing catch-up. His stomach growled, and he remembered her car was still on the street. She'd mentioned the neighbors' trash bins blocking their garage again. Might as well move it, he muttered, grabbing her bag to fish for the keys. The zipper snagged as he opened the side pocket. His fingers brushed past a lipstick tube and her wallet, landing on a folded slip of paper. He pulled it out, expecting a grocery list or a parking stub. Instead, it was a receipt from Lakeside Bistro, a high-end spot across town they'd never been to together. The date caught his eye: yesterday, 9 p.m. 2 entrees, steaks, a bottle of Pinot Noir, and a $150 total. His pulse quickened. Kate had said she was stuck at a late meeting with her team last night, pushing campaign deadlines. No mention of dinner, let alone wine. She never drank during the week, always saying it dulled her focus. He stood frozen, the receipt light in his hand but heavy with questions. The timestamp burned into his mind, 9 p.m., when she texted him about being swamped at the office. He reread the items, searching for some explanation. Maybe a client dinner? But why not mention it? And 2 steaks? His throat tightened. He folded the paper exactly as it was, slipped it back, and grabbed the keys. Outside, the evening air was crisp, the streetlights casting long shadows. The neighbors' trash bins sat crookedly in front of their garage, just as Kate had said. Jake dragged them aside, the wheels scraping against the pavement, and slid into her car. The engine purred as he pulled it into the garage, but his movements felt mechanical. His mind was stuck on that receipt, replaying every detail like a loop he couldn't pause. Back inside, the shower was still running upstairs. Jake paced to the kitchen, opened the fridge, and stared at nothing in particular: leftover pasta, a half-empty juice carton. He closed the door harder than he meant to. Everything looked normal, but a knot was forming in his chest, a mix of doubt and dread he couldn't shake. He tried to reason it away. Maybe it was a team outing, and she'd forgotten to mention it. But the secrecy, the wine, the place they'd never gone together, it didn't add up. Kate came downstairs, her hair damp, wearing old sweats that usually made him smile. "Pizza sound good?" she asked, already scrolling through her phone, her tone light but distracted. Jake nodded, forcing a grin. "Sure. You pick." He wanted to ask about the receipt, to blurt out what he'd found, but something held him back. Her casual ease, the way she laughed at a text before flipping her phone face down, it felt rehearsed, like a performance he wasn't meant to question. They ordered pizza, and Kate rambled about a new campaign her team was pitching. Jake listened, nodding at the right moments, but his thoughts were elsewhere. He kept seeing the receipt in his mind, the bold print of Lakeside Bistro, the date and time that didn't match her story. "Hey," he said, keeping his voice light. "Ever been to that fancy place, Lakeside Bistro?" Her fingers paused on her phone. For a split second, her eyes flickered, then she shrugged. "Heard of it. Why?" "Just curious," he said, watching her closely. "Looked it up. Seems like a spot for special occasions." Kate's smile tightened, and she stood abruptly. "I'm starving. I'll grab plates." She moved to the kitchen, her back to him, and started talking about a coworker's bad presentation, her words faster than usual. Jake leaned back on the couch, his jaw tight. He wasn't one to jump to conclusions, but the pieces weren't fitting. Kate's late nights had been piling up, meetings, she'd said, or drinks with her team. But she'd never mentioned dining out, especially not at a place like that. And the perfume, sharp, floral, new. When had she started wearing it? He couldn't pinpoint it, but it wasn't the scent he knew. The pizza arrived, and they ate in front of the TV, some sitcom playing that neither of them really watched. Kate laughed at a joke, but it sounded hollow to Jake, like she was trying too hard. He took a bite, barely tasting it, his mind racing. He wanted to trust her, to believe there was an innocent explanation. But the receipt was a crack in the foundation of their life together, and he couldn't unsee it. Later, as Kate headed upstairs to bed, she kissed his cheek, her lips brushing quickly before she turned away. "Night," she called, already halfway up the stairs. Jake stayed on the couch, the TV's glow flickering across the room. He pulled out his phone and typed, "Lakeside Bistro," into a search. The website loaded, elegant photos of candlelit tables, reviews praising the romantic ambience. His stomach twisted. He scrolled through Kate's last few texts in his mind, her vague excuses about work, the way she'd started locking her phone when she never used to. He stood pacing again, the floor creaking under his steps. The receipt was still in her bag, just feet away. He could check it again, look for more clues, but what would that prove? Instead, he sat back down, staring at the ceiling. Sleep wasn't coming tonight. The man who'd spent years building a life with Kate, planning trips, laughing over late-night takeout, dreaming of a future, was now questioning every moment. One slip of paper had turned his world into a puzzle, and he wasn't sure he wanted the full picture. But Jake wasn't the type to sit still. He grabbed his phone and texted Mike, his old college buddy who'd gone into private security after a stint as a cop. "Need a favor. Can we talk tomorrow?" The reply came fast, "Anytime, man." "What's up?" Jake hesitated, then typed, "Just need to check something. I'll call you." He hit send, his thumb hovering over the screen. Whatever came next, he needed answers, not guesses, not excuses, but the truth. Jake woke to the buzz of his phone alarm, the sound cutting through a restless night of half-dreams and nagging doubts. Kate was already up, her side of the bed empty, the faint hum of the coffee maker drifting from downstairs. He rubbed his eyes, the receipt from Lakeside Bistro still sharp in his mind, its details, 2 steaks, a bottle of wine, 9 p.m., like a splinter he couldn't ignore. Last night's conversation with Kate, her quick dodge when he mentioned the restaurant, only deepened the unease gnawing at him. He pulled on his shirt and headed downstairs. Kate was at the counter, scrolling through her phone, her thumb moving fast over the screen. She glanced up, offering a quick "morning," before her eyes flicked back down. Jake poured coffee, watching her from the corner of his eye. The way she tilted her phone slightly away from him, the soft smile that curved her lips as she typed. It wasn't the Kate he knew, the one who used to leave her phone unlocked on the table during breakfast. "Big day?" he asked, keeping his tone casual. "Just the usual," she said, not looking up. "Got a pitch meeting, might run late." She stood, grabbed her bag, and kissed his cheek, the gesture quick and mechanical. "See you tonight." The door clicked shut behind her, and the apartment felt too quiet, the air heavy with questions Jake couldn't voice yet. He waited until her car pulled away before grabbing his phone to call Mike. His old friend picked up on the second ring. "Yo, Jake, what's the deal? You sounded off last night." Jake hesitated, then spilled it, the receipt, the timestamp, Kate's evasiveness. Mike listened, his silence steady, practiced. "Sounds like you need eyes on this," he said finally. "I can tail her tonight, see where she goes. No promises, but I'll get you something solid. You sure you want this?" Jake's grip tightened on the phone. "I need to know." They set a plan. Mike would follow Kate after her. Pitch meeting. Discreetly, no confrontation. Jake hung up, his pulse steady but his chest tight. He wasn't a jealous guy, never had been, but the pieces weren't adding up, and he couldn't keep pretending they did. The day dragged at the architecture firm. Jake stared at his sketches, lines blurring as his mind replayed every odd moment from the past month. Kate's late nights, always blamed on work. The new perfume, sharp and unfamiliar, lingering in the air. Her phone, now locked, always angled just out of his view. He brushed it off as stress, her climbing the ladder at the marketing agency, but now each detail felt like a clue he missed. By 6 p.m., he was home, pacing. Kate texted, "Meetings running over. Grabbing drinks with the team after. Don't wait up." Jake's jaw clenched. Drinks with the team, same excuse as last week. He replied, "Cool, have fun," and sent a quick text to Mike, "She's out now." Says drinks with the team? Mike's response was immediate, "On it." Jake tried to distract himself, flipping through a streaming service, but every show felt pointless. He ended up on the couch, scrolling through old photos on his phone. Him and Kate at a Cubs game, her laughing with mustard on her chin. Their trip to Lake Michigan, her hand in his as they watched the sunset. The memories stung, each one now tinted with doubt. Had she been lying even then? He shook his head, forcing the thought away. He needed facts, not guesses. At 10:47 p.m., his phone lit up with a text from Mike. "She's at the Meridian Hotel downtown. Not with the team. Call me." Jake's stomach dropped. He dialed Mike, his voice low. "What did you see?" Mike didn't sugarcoat it. "She walked into the hotel bar with a guy, tall, suit, looks like money. They're cozy, Jake. Laughing close, like they've done this before. I'm parked outside, got a clear view. Want me to stay on her?" Jake's throat was dry. "Yeah. Get what you can. Photos, anything." He hung up, his hands shaking slightly. The Meridian was a sleek, upscale spot, not the kind of place you hit for casual work drinks. He opened his laptop and searched Kate's work calendar. She shared it with him for planning date nights. Today's slot had a vague entry. "Client sync 5 to 7 p.m. Nothing about drinks, nothing about the Meridian. And that red slash he'd seen in her planner yesterday, no details, just a mark, like a secret she didn't want written down. He stood pacing again, the floorboards creaking under his steps. The receipt flashed in his mind, its details now paired with Mike's text. He wanted to call Kate, demand answers, but what would she say? Another excuse? He needed more than words. He needed proof. Mike sent a photo at 11:30 p.m. Jake opened it, his breath catching. Kate, leaning close to a man at the hotel bar, her hand resting on his arm, both of them smiling. The man's face was clear, sharp jaw, dark hair, a tailored suit. Jake didn't recognize him, but he didn't need to. The way Kate looked at him, the ease in her posture, it wasn't how she acted with coworkers. It was intimate, personal. Jake saved the photo, his fingers steady now. He texted Mike, "Keep watching. Let me know when she leaves." Then he sat, staring at the screen, the image burning into him. He wasn't angry, not yet, just cold, focused. The man he'd been yesterday, the one who trusted Kate's late nights and quick kisses, was slipping away. In his place was someone ready to face whatever truth was coming. The clock ticked past midnight. Kate texted, "Heading home soon. Crazy night." Jake didn't reply. He waited, his phone silent, until Mike's next message came at 1:12 a.m. "She's leaving. He's with her. They're heading to the hotel lobby. Looks like they're checking in." Another photo followed Kate and the man at the reception desk, her hand on his back. Jake stared at it, the reality sinking in like a weight he couldn't shake. He didn't sleep. He sat on the couch, the TV off, the apartment dark except for the glow of his phone. When Kate's key turned in the lock at 2:03 a.m., he didn't move. She called out softly, "Jake? You up?" He stayed silent. Her footsteps hesitated, then moved upstairs. The shower ran again, longer this time, like she was washing away more than just a day. Jake leaned back, the photos still open on his phone. He didn't need to confront her now. He had enough to start digging, to plan his next move. Tomorrow, he'd call Mike again, maybe a lawyer too. Whatever Kate was hiding, he'd find it, not with shouts or accusations, but with the quiet resolve of a man who refused to be played. The truth was out there, and Jake was done waiting for it to find him. Jake sat at his desk, the hum of the architecture firm fading into the background as he stared at his phone. The photos from Mike, Kate at the Meridian Hotel bar, her hand on a stranger's arm, then at the reception desk, sat in a hidden folder, each image a shard of proof that sliced through the life he thought they had. It was 9 a.m., and Kate had already left for work, her usual rush goodbye barely registering. Jake hadn't confronted her last night when she slipped in at 2 a.m., her voice soft as she called his name. He'd stayed silent, letting her think he was asleep. Today, he needed more than pictures. He needed a plan. He texted Mike, "Can you dig deeper?" "Who's the guy?" Mike replied within minutes, already on it. "Got a name from the hotel staff, Andrew Carter. I'll check his background. Meet me at noon?" Jake typed back, "Yeah." Usual spot. He pocketed his phone and forced himself to focus on a client's blueprint, but every line he drew felt like a distraction from the truth unraveling in his head. Andrew Carter. The name didn't ring a bell, but the way Kate had leaned into him in those photos told Jake this wasn't a one-off. At noon, Jake met Mike at a quiet diner near the Loop, the clatter of plates and low murmur of conversations giving them cover. Mike slid into the booth, a manila envelope in hand. "You're not gonna like this," he said, keeping his voice low. He pushed the envelope across the table. Jake opened it, finding a printout of Andrew's LinkedIn profile. Andrew Carter, 38, Senior Director at Kate's marketing agency. Her boss. Jake's jaw tightened. The pieces clicked. Late. Meetings. Her guarded phone, the red slash in her planner. "There's more," Mike said. "I pulled some financials. Kate's been moving money from your joint savings to an account linked to Carter. Small transfers, nothing obvious, but it adds up. About 10 grand over 6 months. Jake's stomach twisted. Their savings, money they'd set aside for a house, maybe a family, was funding whatever this was. Mike leaned forward. "He's married, by the way. Wife's a lawyer, 2 kids. I can get more if you want." Jake nodded, his voice steady despite the storm inside. "Do it. And keep it quiet." He slid the envelope into his bag, his mind already racing. This wasn't just betrayal, it was theft, calculated and hidden. He thought of Kate's quick smiles, her vague excuses, the way she'd brushed off his question about Lakeside Bistro. Every moment now felt like a lie she'd rehearsed. Back at the office, Jake couldn't sit still. He canceled his afternoon meetings and called a divorce lawyer recommended by a colleague. The attorney, Sarah, met him at a coffee shop an hour later. She was direct, her notepad open as Jake laid out the facts, the receipt, the photos, the money transfers. Sarah jotted notes, her expression calm but focused. "You've got a strong case," she said. "The financials are key. If she's diverting joint assets, we can demand repayment in the settlement. But you need more evidence, bank statements, transaction records. Can you get those?" Jake nodded. "I'll figure it out." Sarah handed him a list of documents to gather and warned him to avoid confrontation. "Don't tip her off. If she knows you're building a case, she might cover her tracks." Jake thanked her, his resolve hardening. He wasn't just fighting for himself now, he was reclaiming what was his. That evening, Kate texted, "Stuck at work again. Big project deadline. I'll grab dinner out." Jake didn't respond. He waited until the apartment was silent, then opened Kate's laptop, left on the kitchen counter. She'd always been careless with it, assuming he'd never snoop. Her password, their anniversary, still worked. He clicked into her email, scanning for anything tied to Andrew or the account Mike mentioned. A folder labeled, "Work Miscellaneous," caught his eye. Inside, he found bank alerts, confirmations of transfers to an account ending in 4721, the same one Mike had flagged. He screenshotted each one, his hands steady but his pulse racing. Then he saw an email from Andrew, sent 2 weeks ago. "Meet me at the Meridian, 8 p.m. Wear that dress I like." Jake's breath caught. He scrolled further, finding more, dinner plans, hotel bookings, casual mentions of their account. Each message was a punch, but Jake didn't flinch. He forwarded the emails to himself, deleted the sent folder, and logged out. He wasn't angry, not yet. He was focused, every move precise, like drafting a blueprint. Mike called later that night. "Got something else," he said. "Carter's wife, Laura, hired a PI last month. She's onto him. If you want, I can connect you. Might help your case." Jake agreed, his mind already mapping out the next steps. If Laura was building her own case, they could share evidence, box Andrew and Kate in from both sides. He hung up, feeling a strange clarity. This wasn't about revenge, it was about justice, about taking back control. When Kate came home at 11 p.m., she was chatty, talking about a client dinner that ran late. Jake nodded, playing along, his face neutral. "Sounds exhausting," he said, watching her set her phone face down on the counter. She didn't notice his tone, didn't see the shift in his eyes. "Yeah, total chaos," she said, heading upstairs. "Night." Jake stayed downstairs, the screenshots and photos burning a hole in his phone. He emailed Sarah the new evidence, then opened his banking app to check their joint account. The balance was lower than he'd expected, $12,000 less to be exact. He cross-checked the dates with Mike's financials. They matched. Kate was draining their future, piece by piece, for a man who was lying to his own family too. He leaned back, the weight of it all settling in. Tomorrow, he'd meet Laura's PI, start coordinating. He'd keep playing the part of the trusting husband, let Kate think she was in control. But every lie she told, every secret she hid, was another brick in the case he was building. Jake wasn't the type to break things, he built them, carefully, deliberately. And now, he was constructing something new, a way out, a way to make things right, without losing himself in the process. Jake's phone buzzed at 7 a.m., pulling him from a shallow sleep. A text from Mike, meeting Laura's PI at 9. Coffee shop on Wacker. Be there. Jake rubbed his eyes, the weight of the past few days pressing on him. Kate was still asleep, her phone charging on the nightstand, screen dark. He slipped out quietly, leaving her to her routine. The evidence, photos, emails, bank transfers, was locked in a folder on his laptop, each piece a step toward unraveling her lies. Today, he'd tighten the net. At the coffee shop, Mike introduced him to Elena, Laura's private investigator. She was sharp, her questions direct as she slid a tablet across the table. "Laura's been tracking Andrew for weeks," Elena said. "Hotel receipts, credit card charges, texts. He's sloppy, thinks he's untouchable." She showed Jake a photo of Andrew and Kate at a rooftop bar, dated a week before the Meridian Hotel night. Kate's hand rested on Andrew's, her smile unguarded. Jake's stomach churned, but he kept his face steady. "Laura's filing for divorce," Elena continued. "She's willing to share evidence if you're on board. It'll strengthen both your cases." Jake nodded. "I'm in. What do you need?" Elena outlined the plan, combine their financial records, cross-reference hotel bookings, and build a timeline of Andrew and Kate's affair. "The money transfers are the key," she said. "If we prove they misused joint assets, you and Laura can both claim damages." Jake handed over his screenshots, bank alerts, emails, the Lakeside Bistro receipt. Elena scanned them, her expression unreadable. "This is solid. I'll coordinate with your lawyer." Back home, Jake kept up the facade. Kate was in the kitchen, sipping coffee, her phone buzzing with notifications she ignored when he walked in. "Morning," she said, her voice light but her eyes flicking away. "Big day?" Jake asked, pouring himself a cup. "Always," she replied, already typing. He noticed her thumb hesitate, as if she was double-checking what she'd written. "Client dinner tonight," she added unprompted. "Might be late again." Jake just nodded, his calm masking the calculations in his head. That afternoon, he met Sarah, his lawyer, at her office. She reviewed the new evidence, her pen tapping as she read. "The financials are damning," she said. "Kate's been siphoning your joint savings into an account tied to Andrew. We can freeze it and demand repayment in the divorce. With Laura's evidence, we'll also show a pattern of deception." She leaned forward. "But we need to move fast. If Kate suspects you're onto her, she might drain the account completely." Jake spent the evening digging deeper. Using a shared login for their bank, he found more transfers, small, spaced out, but totaling $15,000 now. He screenshot each one, his fingers moving with precision. Then he checked Kate's work calendar again. Tonight's client dinner was another vague entry. Team sync, 6 to 9 p.m. No location, no names. He texted Mike, "She's out tonight. Client dinner, she says. Can you check?" Mike replied, already on it. "I'll tail her." At 9:30 p.m., Mike sent a photo, Kate and Andrew at a sushi restaurant downtown, their heads close over a shared plate. A second text followed, They're heading to a car together. Looks like his. Jake's grip tightened on his phone, but he didn't reply. He forwarded the photo to Sarah and Elena, adding it to the growing file. Each piece of evidence was a brick in the wall he was building, not to trap Kate, but to protect himself. When Kate came home at 11:45 p.m., Jake was on the couch, a laptop open to a random project. She dropped her bag and sighed. "Clients are killing me," she said, kicking off her shoes. "How was your day?" Jake looked up, his voice even. "Busy. Got a lot done." She didn't press, just grabbed a water and headed upstairs, her phone clutched tight. Jake waited until the shower started, then opened her bag. Inside, another receipt: sushi, 2 entrees, sake, dated tonight. He snapped a photo and slipped it back, his movements silent. The next morning, Jake met Laura in person at Elena's suggestion. She was composed, her voice steady despite the strain in her eyes. "Andrew's been lying for years," she said over coffee. "I found out about Kate 6 months ago, but I needed proof. I'm sorry you're in this too." Jake shook his head. "Not your fault. Let's just end this." They agreed to align their divorce filings, sharing evidence to expose Andrew and Kate's financial scheme. Laura's lawyer had already frozen Andrew's accounts. Jake's would do the same for Kate's. That evening, Jake laid out the evidence on the kitchen counter: photos, bank records, receipts. Kate walked in, her phone in hand, and froze when she saw the spread. "What's this?" she asked, her voice sharp. Jake didn't raise his voice. "You tell me." "Lakeside Bistro, the Meridian, sushi tonight. And $15,000 from our savings, moved to an account with Andrew Carter." Her face strained of color. She stammered. "It's not what you think. It's work, investments." "Stop," Jake cut in, his tone firm but calm. "I've got emails, photos, bank records." "You've been lying for months." Kate's eyes darted to her phone, then back to him. "Jake, I can explain." "No," he said. "I'm filing for divorce. My lawyer has everything. You'll hear from her tomorrow." Kate's mouth opened, but no words came. She sank onto a stool, her hands shaking. Jake didn't wait for tears or excuses. He grabbed his keys and walked out, leaving the evidence on the counter. The night air hit him as he stepped outside, his breath steady for the first time in days. He wasn't running, he was moving forward. Jake woke to the sound of his phone buzzing, the screen glowing with a message from Sarah, his lawyer: "Court dates set for next week. Assets frozen? We're ready." He exhaled, the weight of the past month still heavy but no longer suffocating. The confrontation with Kate had been 2 weeks ago, her stammered excuses fading into silence as he walked out. Since then, he'd moved into a small apartment downtown, a temporary space to clear his head. Kate hadn't called, hadn't texted, only her lawyer had reached out, confirming she wouldn't contest the divorce. The evidence was airtight. Jake spent his days rebuilding. He threw himself into work, landing a contract for a new high-rise that kept his firm buzzing. Nights were quieter, spent sketching designs or meeting Mike for a beer to decompress. Mike had been a rock, his updates on Kate and Andrew keeping Jake grounded. "She's moved out of your place," Mike told him one evening. "Renting a studio now. Andrew's in deeper trouble. His wife's lawyer is tearing him apart." Jake nodded, unsurprised. Laura's case against Andrew was moving faster than his own, her evidence mirroring his own stack of receipts, photos, and bank records. The court hearing came on a gray Chicago morning. Jake sat beside Sarah in the courtroom, his hands steady as the judge reviewed the documents. Kate sat across the room, her lawyer whispering in her ear. She didn't look at Jake, her posture rigid, her fingers clasped tight. The judge's voice was calm but firm. The $15,000 Kate had siphoned from their joint savings was ordered returned, plus half the value of their shared assets. Kate's lawyer argued she'd acted under Andrew's influence, but the judge wasn't swayed. "The transfers were deliberate," he said. "Ms. Kate is equally liable." Jake's divorce was granted, the financial settlement clean and final. Laura's case against Andrew wrapped the same week. Mike relayed the details. Andrew's wife secured primary custody of their kids and a hefty alimony package, his accounts gutted by the court's ruling. Andrew was fired from the marketing agency after the scandal broke, his reputation in tatters. Kate, too, had been let go. Her role in the affair and the financial misconduct made her a liability. Jake felt no satisfaction in their downfall, only a quiet relief that justice had been served without him needing to raise his voice. 6 months later, Jake was in a new rhythm. He'd leased a loft in the West Loop, closer to his firm's office, and poured his energy into new projects. His team was growing, the high-rise contract drawing attention from bigger clients. One evening, at a networking event, he met Emma, a freelance journalist covering Chicago's urban development. She was sharp, asking pointed questions about his designs, her laughter easy when he cracked a dry joke about city permits. They exchanged numbers, and what started as coffee turned into dinners, then weekend hikes along Lake Michigan. Emma didn't pry about his past, but when he shared the broad strokes, Kate, the betrayal, the divorce, she listened, her hand resting lightly on his. "You didn't let it break you," she said. "That's rare." One Saturday, Jake and Emma stopped at a small cafe near his office for a quick coffee. As he ordered, he heard the barista's voice, a familiar cadence that made him pause. He glanced up and saw Kate behind the counter, taking orders with a practiced smile. She froze when their eyes met, her hands faltering on the register. Jake nodded politely, placing his order. "Just a black coffee, thanks." Kate's smile wavered, but she rang him up, her movements quick, as if eager to move on. Emma, waiting by the door, didn't comment, but her quiet presence was enough. As they walked out, coffee in hand, Jake felt no urge to look back. Kate's life, working shifts at a cafe, starting over after losing her career and their marriage, was her own now. He'd heard through Mike that she was trying to rebuild, taking night classes, keeping a low profile. Andrew, last he knew, had left Chicago, his career in ruins. The consequences had caught up, not through vengeance but through the steady grind of truth. Jake and Emma drove to a trailhead that weekend, planning a hike through a forest preserve outside the city. As they walked, the crunch of leaves underfoot, she asked about his plans for the future. "Got a dream project?" she said, her tone light but curious. Jake thought for a moment, then mentioned a house he wanted to design in Colorado, all glass and wood, open to the mountains. "Sounds like a place to start fresh," Emma said, her smile warm. Jake nodded, the idea taking root. For the first time in months, he felt unburdened, the past no longer a shadow but a chapter closed. Back in his apartment that night, Jake sat at his drafting table, sketching the Colorado house. His phone buzzed, Emma, sending a photo from their hike, both of them laughing against a backdrop of trees. He saved it, a small anchor to the present. The receipt from Lakeside Bistro, the photos from the Meridian, the bank records, they were filed away, no longer needed. He'd faced the truth, fought for what was right, and walked away whole. Kate's betrayal had cracked his world, but it hadn't broken him. The courtroom had settled the accounts, and time had done the rest. Jake didn't hate her, didn't wish her ill. She'd face her own path, just as he was building his. As he sketched, the lines of the house taking shape, he realized the victory wasn't in her downfall or Andrew's. It was in his own choice to keep moving, to build something new, to live without the weight of resentment. That was enough.